God's love, it's kind of epitomised to me in a song we used to sing at my home church, and the lyrics of the chorus are, "Your love never fails, it never gives up, and it never runs out on me." And it's just such a comfort, and it's such a truth that my life is now based on, that even in my faithlessness, God is faithful. My name is Ria, I'm 22, and I am a recent university graduate from Norwich, and now I work in Ipswich and I live in the beautiful Suffolk countryside. When I was younger, my faith was just as sprightly and energetic as me. I loved kids' church. I was so grateful that my parents kept me planted in God's house from literally ever since I was in my mum's arms, and it was just such a huge part of my life then. But then obviously life isn't without its curveballs. Even at a young age, things can kind of be thrown in your path that you have to navigate, and my parents' divorce was one of them. I don't think I realised just how much of an impact it had on me until I got older. Experiencing a love that had to unfortunately be cut short, it does make you think, what other kinds of love are finite, and what other kinds of love do I have to strive to work hard for, and that I have to strive to gain. And I think knowing that as a child, it kind of sends your mind spinning into other directions to try and seek that love, that unconditional love that you were modelled with. And for me, that did take a negative and a darker turn when the internet was introduced to me, and I started exploring all the different crevices of the internet. And when I was about 10 years old, I did find myself on corners of the internet that a 10-year-old never should have found themselves in, and that kind of epitomised itself in being groomed for a few years, starting at the age of 10. It looked like being sexually exploited online, and being exposed to images, videos. It really warped my vision of love, that it was conditional, that I had to do certain things and behave certain ways to deserve it. My teenage years were really heavily burdened by a lot of things I went through, but I was trying not to let them be. And I was trying to have an outlet in which to process that hurt in a really negative way, especially the way that you're conditioned to think about yourself when you experience such traumas at a young age. It makes you think that your physical body will never be enough. It makes you think that you have to look a certain way in order to feel loved, and just it made me feel so impure. It made me feel dirtied up. It made me feel like that was it for me, and because of that, I then lent into some really unhealthy coping mechanisms instead of leaning on God's love. They looked like harming myself for a good few years. It was extreme negative self-talk and an extremely warped sense of self-worth. And yeah, that harming really left imprints on my body physically. I think the change was definitely when I was around 15 years old. I went to an incredible camp up north with my youth group at the time, and I was just riddled with scars, physical, mental, emotional. I stumbled through the first few days, and then finally on the third day there was actually this amazing moment where one of the speakers actually called for an altar call for those that had experienced suicidal thoughts, self-harm, depression, things like that. He just said, "Come down, let's pray for you." And before I even knew what I was doing, I was running down the front with just tears streaming, and I just thought, I need this, whatever you're doing, God, I know that I need it. And some lady prayed for me. I don't even know who she was. Without even knowing my story, she prophesied over me. And she said that God is going to come like a guillotine. He's going to cut away all that trauma. He's going to cut away the hurt, and it's going to leave you free, that you're not going to be bound by it anymore. And I just felt this wash of love in that moment. And it's something that you just can't fully describe to another human. It has to be personal. But in that moment, I actually felt this really odd, the only way I can describe it is like a tingling sensation on my leg and on my stomach where that prominent scarring was. And I didn't know at the time, but God was really on the move. And then after that time, I go back to our hotel, and I just check over myself, and I was so awestruck that scarring that was on my body had completely left. There was not one trace of those marks on my body. God had done a miraculous thing, and it was because of his unconditional love for me. And I felt God so clearly say in that moment that his son Jesus took that scarring, he took those lashes and that pain on the cross so I would never have to. I believe it was the October time after that camp I actually got baptised. I spent the rest of my teenage years still processing things, because I know that God's heart for us is to be fully healed in our hearts. And I spent the next few years really pressing into God and showing up for him in all the ways, and speaking at church and loving on my friends. And then uni came around and I went to university. I would love to say that life since that moment has been just sparkles, rainbows and happiness, but Jesus has said in his word that we will face trials, but to take heart because he's overcome the world. And uni was certainly a trial for me, especially in uni. There was a beautiful lake near the university, and I'd love to go and spend time with the Lord there. Even growing up, like me and my dad used to go on so many walks, and we had some great chats as we just spent time with God in nature. So even throughout my life, I've just loved being in God's creation. I think it's such a beautiful way to connect with him. I went through a period of really heavy depression in 2022, 2023. I experienced, various sort of other traumas at uni that, I'm still working on healing, because I know that God's doing a work in me even still. But this time I just had this anchor that God's love never gives up, never runs out on me. And it was just amazing that it was something that I would always be drawn back to through the word, through worship, through the amazing church I went to for many years in Norwich. A verse that really got me through and that has been really defined my life since that moment is Hebrews chapter 10 verse 23. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, because he who has promised is faithful. And I would just say that if God was faithful to his promises then to his children, he's going to be faithful to his promises now. God's love just brought me out of such a dark place, and he's reminded me of his promises every step of the way.